Something has moved through here. Oh my, look at this. Holy look at.
Bigfoot is not just big in stature. For some, it's also big business. There's long been a thriving economy built around the legend. Of course, we're a part of that.
10 years later, Hunter finds remains and a chilling photo. You know, when you head into the wilderness chasing legends, you expect adventure, a brush with danger, maybe even a thrilling campfire story to tell your friends. But what you don't expect is to become the subject of a decade-long mystery. Yet, in the unforgiving terrain of northwest Idaho, the line between adventure and tragedy blurred. Imagine this: a hunter, trudging through the dense, rugged Sawtooth Wilderness in April 2020, comes across a scene that looks like something out of a nightmare. Amid the remote valleys, hidden by thick vegetation, lie skeletal remains. Nearby, there are scattered personal items: a weathered backpack, a pair of dusty binoculars, a tattered sleeping bag. These objects, left to endure the elements for nearly a decade, whisper of a story long forgotten. Among them is an old, corroded camera, its casing rusted and worn but still intact. What secrets could it possibly hold? When investigators recover the memory card, they find a single photo that sends shivers down their spines. But before we delve into the chilling image, we need to rewind and piece together the eerie tale of the man behind these remains.
In that film that has arms and legs, in terms of the limb ratios, the speed, the stride length, nothing can be determined from that film. There's not enough data in it.
The hunt that went wrong. It all began in September 2010, a time when the air in the mountains was crisp, the black-tailed deer were in their prime, and the Seven Devils Mountains loomed large, as ominous as their name suggested. Todd Hofflander, a seasoned outdoorsman, had prepared meticulously for a 4-day hunting trip. With him were essentials: camping gear, a .357 Magnum revolver for protection, and his ever-loyal black Labrador, Ruby. He wasn't going in alone either. His friend Jeff, an enthusiastic but less dependable outdoorsman, had joined him. Together, they set out to conquer the wilderness, their sights set on bagging game and soaking in the majestic views of Hell's Canyon. The Seven Devils Mountains were notorious for their jagged peaks, unstable terrain, and haunting reputation. Locals told tales of strange occurrences, whispers of shadows moving just out of sight, and an unsettling silence that seemed to hang over certain valleys. But for Todd, these were merely stories. He wasn't one to scare easily. As an experienced mountaineer, he trusted his instincts and preparation. For the first 2 days, everything went as planned. The pair scouted trails, camped under the stars, and explored the rugged beauty of the Sawtooth Wilderness. But on the 3rd day, the adventure took a dark turn. Todd began to complain of severe knee pain, a debilitating issue that made trekking through the dangerous terrain nearly impossible. Jeff, unwilling to cut the trip short, proposed a solution. They would split up. Todd would remain at a spot to rest, while Jeff continued the hunt. Jeff assured Todd he'd return by nightfall, bringing along his father, Steve, for additional help. When Jeff and Steve made their way back to the ridge later that evening, Todd was gone. There was no note, no sign of struggle, just an empty campsite and an uneasy silence. Suspicion and a string of dead ends. Todd's sudden disappearance sent shockwaves through the small, close-knit community. A massive search effort was launched almost immediately, with helicopters scouring the skies and search dogs combing through the dense underbrush. Volunteers from nearby towns joined the effort, their voices echoing through the mountains as they called out Todd's name. Yet, days turned into weeks, and there was no trace of him, no footprints, no discarded gear, no clues to suggest where he might have gone. As the search stretched on with no results, the focus shifted to Jeff, the last person to see Todd alive. Authorities grilled him for details, but his story began to show cracks. Inconsistencies in his account raised red flags, and when he was subjected to a polygraph test, he failed. This only deepened suspicions. Was Jeff withholding something? Todd's wife, Julie, added fuel to the fire when she spoke with investigators. She painted a troubling picture of Jeff, describing him as unreliable, short-tempered, and prone to making cruel jokes. He had a history of teasing Todd relentlessly, often belittling him in front of others. There were even whispers of Jeff's aggressive behavior toward animals, including his own dog. But troubling as these details were, they didn't amount to evidence. The questions surrounding Jeff lingered, but without concrete proof, the investigation stalled. Then, weeks after Todd's disappearance, something unexpected happened. A couple hiking in the area came upon Ruby, Todd's beloved Labrador. The dog was alive, miraculously unharmed aside from mild dehydration. Her survival seemed almost impossible. How had she managed to endure the wild without food or protection? Yet, something about her was deeply unsettling. When search teams brought Ruby back to the area in the hopes she might lead them to Todd, her behavior changed. She trembled violently, barked at nothing, and whined as if in fear. It was as though she sensed something sinister in the mountains. Even with Ruby's return, the search led nowhere. The wilderness kept its secrets, and by October 2010, authorities officially called off the operation. The case was closed, Todd's fate unknown. The mountains, it seemed, had swallowed him whole. But the discovery of Todd's remains and that haunting photo in 2020 would breathe new life into the mystery, raising more questions than answers. What had happened to Todd Hofflander in the remote, forbidding Seven Devils Mountains? And what was the true nature of the danger that had been waiting for him in the wilderness? A chilling discovery. Fast forward to April 2020. A hunter exploring the valleys near the Bernard River made a grim discovery. A set of human bones later confirmed to be Todd's. His belongings, including that old camera, were scattered nearby. But his revolver? Nowhere to be found. The corroded camera became the key to unraveling what might have happened. Investigators managed to salvage the memory card, and the photos they recovered were disturbing. The last image was so shocking it left everyone who saw it shaken. While authorities have never publicly revealed the photo, rumors suggest it showed something, or someone, watching Todd in the wilderness. So, what happened to Todd? Was it an accident? A wild animal attack? Or, as some believe, something far stranger? The Sawtooth Mountains have long been steeped in folklore, with sightings of strange figures and whispers of Bigfoot adding a layer of mystery to the case. Some theorists speculate Todd captured something on that camera he wasn't supposed to see, something that didn't want to be found. Others wonder if Jeff knew more than he let on. And then there's the chilling possibility that Todd met his end at the hands of someone, or something, that still roams those mountains. This story doesn't end with closure, only questions. What was in that photo? Why did Ruby act like the mountains were haunted? And most importantly, what really happened to Todd Hofflander? The wilderness holds its secrets close. Some might say a little too close. The haunting legacy of Devil's Mountain. The case of Todd Hofflander has left an unerasable mark on the collective imagination. A tragic tale woven with mystery, fear, and unanswered questions. His remains, discovered a decade after his disappearance, seemed to hold whispers of the horrors he might have endured. Yet for all the evidence recovered, a backpack, binoculars, a sleeping bag, and a corroded camera, so much remains shrouded in uncertainty. It is this void of answers that fuels endless speculation and keeps the story alive, a chilling reminder of the wilderness's unforgiving and mysterious nature. When Todd's camera was discovered, investigators worked painstakingly to salvage its memory card. Most of the photos were exactly what one would expect: sweeping landscapes, breathtaking vistas of the Seven Devils Mountains, and snapshots of Todd's black Labrador Ruby by his side. But there was one photo that stood out. A single image that defied explanation. It was blurry, as if taken in haste, and captured what appeared to be a towering, shadowy figure in the distance. The shape was indistinct, but its presence was unmistakably menacing. Todd, a man known for his composure and experience in the wild, seemed to have been in a state of panic when he took it. The fact that this was the last image on the camera suggests he may have been attacked, or worse, immediately after. The recovered photo added an unsettling layer to an already disturbing case. Online communities and armchair detectives latched onto the image, speculating about its implications. For some, it was clear evidence of the supernatural, a cryptid perhaps, or the infamous Grassman, a creature that has long been the subject of folklore in the region. Described as a large, hairy humanoid with shaggy, grass-like fur, glowing eyes, and a foul odor, the Grassman is said to stand between 7 and 8 feet tall and weigh over 500 pounds. Eyewitness accounts describe its terrifying roar and aggressive behavior, especially toward those traveling alone at night. Could this creature have been responsible for Todd's death? Theories abound, each more chilling than the last. Some believe the Grassman stalked Todd, its glowing eyes the source of Ruby's terror when she returned to the wilderness with authorities. The area where Todd's remains were found, lush with vegetation and near a water source, matches the conditions in which such a creature might thrive. Moving Todd's body such a great distance, miles from the meeting point, would require immense strength. Another detail that points to something beyond the ordinary. But not everyone is convinced by tales of cryptids and supernatural predators. Many argue that the answers lie closer to home, perhaps with Jeff and his father, who were the last people to see Todd alive. The discrepancies in Jeff's statements, his failed polygraph test, and his dubious history paint a troubling picture. Todd's wife, Julie, described Jeff as a manipulative and aggressive man, prone to mocking Todd and making inappropriate comments. Could a hunting accident have spiraled into a cover-up? Perhaps the missing revolver, which Todd would have carried with him at all times, was deliberately hidden to erase evidence of foul play. The rugged, heavily forested terrain where Todd's remains were found would have made it difficult for search teams to locate a staged scene. Yet even this theory struggles to explain everything. Why would Jeff risk transporting Todd's body so far from the meeting point? How did Ruby, the only living witness, survive in the wild for weeks without a collar or pack, seemingly unharmed but visibly shaken? Another possibility is that Todd fell victim to the brutal realities of the wilderness. The Seven Devils Mountains, with their unstable rock formations and unpredictable weather, have claimed lives before. If Todd attempted to leave the campsite due to an approaching predator or other perceived danger, he may have been injured in a fall or struck by falling rocks. The dog, perhaps scared by the incident, could have fled the scene. Survival instincts and access to the remaining supplies in Todd's backpack might explain how Ruby endured the ordeal. And yet, the recovered photo refuses to be dismissed so easily. For those who believe in the supernatural, it is the smoking gun of the case, the one piece of evidence that suggests Todd encountered something beyond human understanding. What's most haunting is imagining Todd's final moments, the fear he must have felt, the courage it took to raise his camera, the split second in which he captured the image. Was he trying to warn us? Or did he simply want someone, anyone, to know what happened to him? In the end, Todd's story is a tragic blend of human error, natural hazards, and perhaps something more. His remains were found in a place aptly named Devil's Mountain, and the legacy of his disappearance has only reinforced the eerie reputation of the area. Whether the answers lie in cryptid legends, human betrayal, or the cruelty of nature, one thing is clear: the wilderness holds its secrets tightly, and Todd's fate may never be fully understood. For those left behind, including Jeff, who must live with the guilt of leaving Todd alone, the unanswered questions are a burden that will never fade. The wilderness took Todd Hofflander, and with him, it claimed its truth. How Bigfoot got its name. For those of you wondering, the name Bigfoot has its roots in a peculiar discovery made in August 1958. Jerry Crew, a construction worker in Eureka, California, came across enormous footprints at his worksite in the remote woods. These weren't just large, they were massive, far beyond the size of any human or animal known to inhabit the area. Fascinated Crew made a plaster cast of one of the prints and brought it to the local newspaper, Humboldt Times. The paper published the story and coined the term Bigfoot to describe the mysterious creature that could have left such gigantic tracks. The name captured the public's imagination almost instantly, becoming synonymous with tales of elusive, hairy giants lurking in the wilderness. For a time, the story of Bigfoot captivated readers and fueled speculation about an undiscovered creature living in the forests of Northern California. Crew's plaster cast became an iconic symbol of the Bigfoot legend, with some viewing it as a breakthrough discovery. However, the mystery surrounding these footprints took an unexpected turn decades later, when the truth was finally revealed. Unbeknownst to crew and the public, the tracks were a carefully orchestrated hoax. Ray Wallace, a local prankster and logger, had been the mastermind behind the footprints. Using oversized wooden feet strapped to his boots, Wallace had stomped around the area, creating the impressions that crew would later find. To add to the illusion, Wallace used the weight of his truck bed to press the tracks into the ground, ensuring they appeared deep and authentic without leaving human footprints alongside them. Wallace kept his secret for years, never revealing the truth during his lifetime. It wasn't until after his death in 2002 that his family came forward and admitted the hoax. They shared details of how Wallace had carefully created the fake tracks, turning what began as a local joke into a cultural phenomenon. While some were disheartened to learn the origins of the name Bigfoot, others found the story amusing, viewing it as a testament to the power of myth and storytelling. Ironically, Wallace's fake tracks ended up serving a surprising purpose. They became a reference point for distinguishing hoaxes from genuine evidence. Experts like Jeff Meldrum, who analyze supposed Bigfoot footprints, often use Wallace's crude, stamped impressions as a baseline. The tracks Wallace created lacked the detailed nuances found in natural footprints, features like toe splay, pressure ridges, and the subtle variations in depth and shape caused by a living creature in motion. In contrast, prints like those discovered by Meldrum in the Blue Mountains exhibit these organic details, making them much harder to dismiss. The name Bigfoot may have started as a hoax, but it evolved into something far greater, a symbol of humanity's enduring curiosity about the unknown. Even though its origins were rooted in mischief, the term has become an indelible part of cryptozoological lore, inspiring countless searches, debates, and stories about the elusive giant of the forest. Johnstown Footprint and the Skeptic's Dilemma. In 1980, Johnstown, Pennsylvania, became the site of another mysterious footprint discovery. Locals reported strange noises and an awful smell, alongside a massive 17.75-inch footprint. The Associated Press published a photo of the print, bringing national attention. But, as with other footprint evidence, the association with earlier hoaxes made skeptics dismissive. Despite this, researchers like Meldrum argue that the natural characteristics of genuine Sasquatch prints set them apart from fakes.
Sasquatch has retained the more primitive characteristic of a very flexible instep, a mid-foot flexibility, which can be seen here.
The Patterson-Gimlin film, Bigfoot's Hollywood moment. The Patterson-Gimlin film remains the crown jewel of Bigfoot evidence. In 1967, Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin ventured into the woods of Northern California, following reports of Bigfoot sightings. Patterson carried a camera, and when the two encountered a large, ape-like figure, he managed to capture a few seconds of footage. The most iconic frame shows the creature turning to look directly at the camera, a gesture that suggests intelligence and awareness. Skeptics often dismiss the film as a hoax, claiming it was just a man in a costume. But special effects experts disagree. For context, the Planet of the Apes movie released in 1968 showcased the best Hollywood could achieve in ape costumes at the time, and those costumes were far less realistic than the creature in the Patterson-Gimlin film. The movements in the film, fluid and natural, also set it apart from anything a person in a suit could replicate. Another testament to the film's authenticity is Bob Gimlin's unwavering account. Despite disputes with Patterson over unpaid profits and his reluctance to embrace the public spotlight, Gimlin has always maintained that what he saw that day was real. He had nothing to gain, no fame, no money, yet he stuck to his story, which only adds to the film's credibility. Why are Bigfoot sightings so rare? If Bigfoot exists, why don't we see it more often, especially in an era when billions of people carry high-quality cameras? One explanation is that the Sasquatch actively avoids human contact. Even in regions teeming with wildlife, sightings of animals like monkeys are rare because most people don't venture deep into the wilderness. Those who do are not usually searching for Sasquatch. Another reason could be how easily the creature blends into its environment. In one video, for example, 3 dark shapes are visible behind trees, but only one is the supposed Sasquatch. The largest shape to the left isn't the creature, it's the smaller figure in the middle. If the Sasquatch hadn't stood upright, it might have gone unnoticed altogether. Walking on all fours, it could theoretically wander through Times Square and be mistaken for a gorilla. A darker theory: Bigfoot witnesses who never tell their stories. There's a more chilling explanation for the lack of Bigfoot evidence. Each year, over 500,000 people go missing in the United States alone. Could it be that some of these individuals encountered Bigfoot and didn't live to tell the tale? While it's a provocative idea, critics argue it's speculative, akin to stories about the Tooth Fairy. They suggest we focus on available evidence rather than theorizing about why evidence might be missing. Critics often dismiss Bigfoot sightings with alternative explanations. For example, the Jacobs Trail cam photo, which appears to show a young Bigfoot, could easily be a bear suffering from mange. Jeff Meldrum's footprint casts, while fascinating, are often compared to the large footprints of humans like Shaquille O'Neal. A signed pair of Shaq's shoes, auctioned by Pristine Auctions, demonstrates just how massive human feet can be, making it possible for large footprints to belong to exceptionally tall individuals. Even the Patterson-Gimlin film, considered by many to be the most compelling Bigfoot evidence, faces scrutiny. Skeptics argue that while Roger Patterson likely couldn't afford a Hollywood-grade costume, it's even less likely that a bipedal ape has avoided detection for over 50 years. Mythical beings turned real, the case for Bigfoot. Skeptics often claim that if Bigfoot were real, zoologists would have discovered it by now. But history shows that even large, prominent animals have remained hidden from science for centuries. Mountain gorillas, for instance, were considered mythical creatures until the early 1900s. In the 1600s, a British explorer described them as monsters covered in hair, except for the face and hands, with the stature of a giant. Similarly, giant pandas were dismissed as folklore until they were scientifically confirmed in the 20th century. Even then, it took 50 years of sporadic sightings for the species to be fully accepted by science. Every year, scientists discover nearly 18,000 new species, though most are small or microscopic. However, history shows that even massive creatures can evade detection. Given this precedent, it's not entirely unreasonable to consider the possibility of a bipedal ape that avoids human contact and is rarely captured on camera. The lingering mystery. Whether or not you believe in Sasquatch, the absence of concrete evidence doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't exist. As the saying goes, the absence of evidence isn't the evidence of absence. Bigfoot could be an undiscovered species or simply a myth waiting to become fact, just as gorillas and pandas once were. And Sasquatch isn't the only cryptid to provoke such debates. Consider the Nephilim giants, rumored to inhabit caves in the Solomon Islands. Though they may sound like pure folklore, growing evidence suggests otherwise. We've explored this fascinating topic in another video, and it's worth checking out. Bigfoot remains one of the most captivating mysteries of our time. Is it a relic from the past, an undiscovered species, or merely a product of human imagination? The truth may still be out there, waiting to be uncovered. Until then, the Sasquatch legend continues to spark curiosity, skepticism, and endless debate. What do you think? Is Bigfoot real, or is it just a myth?